So I hope the book is it's entertaining, but it's heartwarming, right? That they can identify and empathize with these characters as they go through a tough time in their lives, but also a really fun time, right? I hope that it's familiar in terms of struggles and things that we all experience and go through. And at the end of the day, I hope it's inspiring, right? And that they're optimistic about how Charlie turns out, and in turn, it makes them reflect in a positive way on their own experiences at that time in their lives.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. It's an author podcast where we get to meet great authors from around the world. And today's going to be an interesting conversation for me. My guest today has a very interesting day job, I guess you could say. And he's snuck into his office today to spend a few minutes with us, which I'm really happy about. And Thomas is here. New book out in the world, which is exciting. It's something you're going to love. And it's another side of what Thomas would be known for, to be an author. And I'm excited to have him here. Thomas, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Dave. It's a pleasure.
Excellent. Let everybody know where you are. Where do you live, Thomas?
So I live in Roanoke, Virginia, which is in the western part of the Commonwealth of Virginia, set amidst the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's a beautiful spot in the United States.
Excellent. I know Roanoke because we talked about this for Black Dog Salvage. A big fan of the TV show, and I did get to talk to two of the amazing people at Black Dog Salvage. So you have me there. As soon as I heard Roanoke, I'm like, that took me a while to learn that word, by the way. I had to learn how to say Roanoke. But those two guys are great. I love Black Dog Salvage and all that. I'm on a tangent, I understand. But so it looks like it's a beautiful place to live and so much history and
a lot of history. Virginia has a lot of history, but Roanoke originally was a railroad town that was founded relatively late in Virginia history in the late 19th century by the railroad, and it was called Big Lick before it was renamed Roanoke early in the 20th century.
Okay. Well, there you go. We got a little free history lesson.
There you go. All right.
There will be a test at the end of this, just everyone. So pay attention, take notes. Thomas, okay, I got to start just with a little bit of this. Please entertain me with this. You have a very interesting job. I've had some very interesting people on the show. This is the first time I've had anyone that has anything close to what you do. Please explain to us, what is your job?
So I'm a federal district judge in Virginia. We call them Article III judges in the United States. So I was nominated by the president and had to be confirmed by the Senate. I've been doing it now for 5 years. Day to day, we are trial judges, so I oversee a relatively busy docket that consists of criminal cases and civil lawsuits. I spend a lot of time reading briefs, sitting on the bench, listening to lawyers argue, and then making decisions about cases. So it's a fascinating job. It's an honor and a privilege to serve as a judge in the United States, and I'm very fortunate to do it.
That must be an interesting phone call or email or something that says we're nominating you. We want you to be in this role. That's got to be an interesting feeling for you.
It is, and some of your listeners may know that judicial confirmations and that process has become more and more fraught and difficult over the years. It's a long process. It kind of tests your patience. You go through the ringer, but if you emerge and are confirmed, it's worth it. And it certainly is for me.
Are you friends with Judge Judy? That was one of the questions I really wanted to know.
No, I've never met Judge Judy. Far more famous than I am.
Well, you have a book, so that's one up on her. Okay, I have to know. I'm in Canada, right? So I'm looking at it from a different perspective altogether. How long does it take to go from starting your law career to where you are now? Because you're a relatively young man. Like, this is great. How long does it take? Like, years and years and years to get here?
Yeah, everyone's path is different. So
Okay.
I became a judge in 2020. At that time, I'm now 48, so do the math. I was about 43. Relatively young. I'd say the average age of a federal district judge is probably late 50s, early 60s. I was fortunate. A lot of folks aspire to be judges. In all honesty, I never really did. And it's a culmination of a lot of things. Good luck, right? Being in the right place at the right time. Certainly having a track record and a body of work that perhaps stands out in the field. But I was just incredibly fortunate that I had the opportunity to do it, that I got the call, and had the political support in Virginia to get through the process.
There's so many questions I have for you. I don't want to spend the whole time. This is not a judge podcast.
No, that's fine.
But it's very interesting. I'm fascinated. I find that some judges appear to be very stern and stoic, and some seem to be very friendly and very, of the people type judge. They just feel like you could just hang out with them after work type thing. Some are so like, do you spit or sit up straight and all that. So do you get to kind of pick your persona as a judge? Like, how do you show up on the bench, and how much of it is you and how much of it is you as a judge? Like, where does your humanity kind of fit into all this?
So I try to be myself, right? And that's true as a judge and as a lawyer, as a father, as a friend. Certainly, when you are in that role up on the bench, there's a certain amount of decorum that's expected, right? And litigants are not obsequious, but they bend over backwards, right, to be respectful of the court, to be on their best behavior. And judges' temperaments and personalities run the gamut, right, as you alluded to. My courtroom, I think, is probably a little more relaxed than some of my colleagues' courtrooms. I like to make sure that particularly the litigants, right, the parties who are not the lawyers, are comfortable, right? They understand the process, that I'm taking the time to explain why I'm making a particular decision, giving the parties a full and adequate opportunity to be heard. So they have been able to say their piece before I make a decision. So am I a warm and fuzzy judge? I don't know that I would go that far, but I certainly try to be respectful, solicitous, compassionate, and empathetic within the bounds of the judicial role.
If you bring the gavel home, does it work at home like it works in the courtroom?
Does not work at home.
Okay.
My wife presides at home.
Okay. All right. So then you have to approach the bench when you get home.
Correct.
Okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. I want to make that clear, just in case anyone was wondering. Okay, so you have this side of your life, and I would anticipate this occupies a large portion of your career time, apart from your family. How do you have time to chase a story and become an author and write a book? Where do you fit that into your average week?
Sure.
How do you do that?
So I tell people I'm a lawyer now, judge, but my first love has always been writing. So I started writing probably when I was in high school and college. I wrote for the student newspaper. And as a practicing lawyer, I regularly wrote op-eds and essays that were published in a variety of outlets, regional and national. And I wrote about myriad topics: public policy, some political issues, legal issues, and the like. When you become a judge, ethically, you are no longer allowed to opine and speak about politics and public policy and those sorts of things. Yeah. So I needed that outlet, and so I had to pivot, and I started writing occasionally for a Virginia-based outlet, and I wrote a piece on fly fishing, which is one of my true passions. and a piece about an all-boys summer camp that my son attends that is directly affiliated with a camp that I attended as a young boy, and the joys of that experience. And after writing those pieces, I made a decision that I wanted to try to write something a little bit more substantial, and I wanted to try to write a novel. In the back of my mind, I had the place, the setting, some of the characters, and the first chapter. And that had been percolating for a number of years. And I think I was in the shower one day and I just said, you know what, I'm going to see if I can get a couple of chapters written and see, if it's any good and whether it's worth continuing. So when I started Charlie Man, which is my book, I would come in really early in the morning to work before the rest of the staff arrived, before we had court, and try to write for a couple of hours. Just 500, 1,000 words, try to move the story along. And within a couple of weeks, I realized, no, you may have something here, because I was really enjoying it. I wasn't sure going in what it would be like. And as I got into it, started to develop the plot and some of the characters and get into the dialogue, I just became lost in that world. And I think a lot of writers will tell you, it's just all encompassing. So it was sometimes difficult to stop, right, when I had to put it down and actually start my real job. But it was just a lot of fun to do.
So self-taught as far as writing your own book? Did you have anybody helping you with this?
So pretty much self-taught. I mean, I'm an avid reader, always have been, right? Okay. And I have an eclectic taste in books. I love biographies and nonfiction, but I also love fiction. So I've read a lot over the course of my life. And I didn't have any manuals. I didn't read any how-to books. But I think one of the things that folks may not know, lawyers and judges write a lot. So I've spent the better part of my career writing. It's a different type of writing, although I had good teachers along the way, starting in high school, who taught the fundamentals, right? Declarative sentences, don't use too many adjectives, be concise, state your conclusion up front. And when I craft judicial opinions and written orders, one of the things that I try to accomplish is I want to make it accessible, so a non-lawyer can pick up an opinion that we produced and understand it, right? Like they're reading an article in the newspaper. So over the course of decades, right, as a lawyer, law student, I learned those basics. Obviously, writing a novel is a different genre type of project, but I took those basic skills and to a certain extent applied those in this particular forum.
I typically ask this question in the reverse order, but for you, I want to do it a different way. Normally, I would ask, how does your job affect your writing? I want to know, how does your writing affect you in your job?
So I think going through the process of writing, rewriting, revising, and editing Charlie Man has certainly made me a better writer, right? We're always improving. And at age 48, having written a lot over the last several decades, I think going through the process of writing a almost 70,000 word manuscript and trying to get it to a place where it was ready to be published certainly benefited me in terms of my day-to-day approach to writing as a lawyer. Maybe it's made me a little more creative, right, and willing to kind of press the bounds or the boundaries of what I would typically try to do in a legal opinion. Mm-hmm. So in that respect, I mean, this was an intensive writing project, and I got a lot out of it. And at the end of the day, I think it's made me a better writer.
With that much discipline to come in early and to write that many amount of words, you're in a creative state before your day even technically begins. you must have been setting yourself up in a different light had you never done a project like this. If this had never been part of your story, I think there would be a difference between before and after writing this book for you personally.
No question about that.
Yeah.
No question about that.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little about the story then as well. Tell us more about Charlie Man and kind of what, for the readers that are listening, what is the big idea of the story? Can we give us some kind of context of what we're going to be finding as a reader for the first time?
Sure. So Charlie Man is set in Richmond, Virginia, which is the capital of Virginia. It's where I was born and raised and spent my formative years. So Charlie Stewart is the protagonist. He just turned 18 years old, and he's entering his senior year at the fictional St. Mark's Episcopal School, which is the prestigious all-boys school kind of at the heart of Richmond's establishment, the near West End, the relatively wealthy enclave within the city. Charlie starts his senior year. He's still reeling from the tragic passing of his father, who had died in the last couple of years from cancer. Charlie's dealing with some anxiety and depression that's lingering. He's a relatively mediocre student by St. Mark's high standards, a mediocre athlete, but he's hopeful and he's optimistic. He has a best friend named Beau Miller, who is a star student and athlete, and is kind of the light in Charlie's world. He has an on and off again girlfriend named Katy Hendricks, and he's hopeful that he'll be able to get back with Katy for his senior year. But he's feeling the pressure of senior year, trying to be admitted to a so-called prestigious state university, to deal with the anxiety and some of the things that go along with that at school. And over the course of the year, some of those internal conflicts, loyalty, his relationship with his best friend, his relationship with Katy, and a complicated relationship with a single mother who's struggling with alcoholism. All of those internal conflicts eventually kind of manifest themselves in external conflicts among some of the characters. But through it all, Charlie is resilient. He is stoic. He's witty. He's funny, and he perseveres. So I think it's a hopeful story from start to finish.
What do you admire about Charlie?
Charlie handles adversity with aplomb, right?
Okay.
He deals with some tough things. Being a teenage boy or teenage girl is difficult. It's difficult now. It was difficult in the early to mid 1990s when I was coming up. And Charlie keeps his head about him. He deals with the tough stuff. And one of the things I like about Charlie, and I hope that it gets across to the reader, is he doesn't go about it alone, right? He has a network of teachers and coaches and mentors who he's willing to confide in and lean on and rely on to kind of help him through the struggles. And I think that's a really important part of the process for young folks, not internalizing everything, but being willing to be vulnerable and share and rely on folks to help them through tough times.
And the significance of Charlie and his best friend, they seem like opposites. One's excelling and one's struggling. How does that dynamic kind of play out for us?
So it's a fraught dynamic, right? I mean, this is his lifelong friend, his childhood friend, who is a superstar in every respect. And someone who probably takes that for granted and occasionally takes his relationship with Charlie for granted. It becomes a little one-sided. And Charlie, I think, realizes that and struggles with that and ultimately has to face it without giving away too much when his friend kind of betrays his friendship and his loyalty at some point during the year.
Who would you say is the ideal age range for the book?
So it's categorized, right, for it's billed as a young adult novel. Okay. That said, the folks who have read it, and a number of folks have, including those who have endorsed it, have gone out of their way to make the point that this is a young adult novel, but it should or hopefully would be appealing to those my age, older, really anyone who has struggled as a teenager and dealt with these timeless challenges. So I hope it will have a wide appeal, not only to teenagers and teenage boys, but to folks in their late 40s and 50s who remember fondly, right, the early to mid 1990s. And I think that's one of the unique things about the book. I haven't read a lot of novels that are set in that particular time period. And that was so much fun, right, to think about my life, what it was like to have friendships and girlfriends and relationships where you weren't totally reliant on social media and text messaging. Right, where you just picked up a landline telephone, where you wrote a letter, where you sat on the banks of the James River and just talked for a couple of hours. The music, the technology or lack thereof, CDs and mixtapes. So that was a lot of fun to kind of revisit and establish both time and place.
When I think of August 1994, I think of like 2 weeks ago. I don't think it's that long ago, but it was. I'm getting older just thinking about this. Yeah, it was a totally different time. And we didn't have an online persona and a real life persona. We went home and we left things wherever they were. We didn't bring it home with us. We weren't surrounded and having to entertain people and be entertained at all times. It was a very different time.
It was a very different time. And whether that time is better than the present, I think can be left for debate. But it was certainly the time that was really critical in my life, and it was a blast to revisit it.
How much was an obvious question, I think, to some degree. How much of Charlie has to do with Thomas? Is there some kind of correlations here and there between the story?
So it's often said, right, that first novels are at least partly or partially autobiographical. And I think that's true to a certain extent. Some of what Charlie encounters and how he sees the world is more than vaguely familiar to the author. Certainly in terms of place, that's where I grew up. I attended a school similar to that. I had friends who were similar to some of the folks that are depicted in the book, although there are no dead ringers. Their characters are composites. And some of the challenges that Charlie experienced are things that probably to a lesser extent I experienced as a teenager. So there's some truth to it, but Charlie is, I think, far cooler and tougher than I ever was.
Here you go. If Charlie was to walk into your courtroom, you know Charlie because you created this character. If he takes the witness bench and is here to be cross-examined in your courtroom, is there anything that would surprise you from Charlie about his story or things that you wouldn't really know as the author about your character that might be a little bit like, I didn't know that about you, Charlie? Anything?
That's a great question. So I feel like I know Charlie well, 18-year-old Charlie. But if Charlie were coming to my court as the 35-year-old version of himself, I would be interested to hear what he has to say, because Charlie's got a lot going for him. And there's a lot of life to be lived. And I would fully expect that the Charlie that I know through this experience has matured and experienced things that has changed his outlook and his perspective on various things. So I'm sure I would be both delighted and surprised if he were to appear in my courtroom as an older version of himself.
There you go. How soon does Charlie win over the hearts of the readers in the novel?
I would hope pretty early on.
Okay.
I'll spoil a little bit. First chapter, it's the Friday before the long Labor Day weekend. School starts on Tuesday, and Charlie and his best friend Beau Miller are trespassing on the property of a retired ambassador who has this postmodern mansion on a bluff overlooking the James River, and one of their favorite pastimes is to trespass across his estate and make their way down to the river and spend some time down there doing things that the teenagers do. And I hope that first chapter and that dynamic and that setting and the sense of angst that's building and how the chapter ends really hooks the reader. It was a lot of fun to write that first chapter.
That description looks like the cover to me in my mind.
It does. It does. So that is that actually exists. So that is the James River in Richmond. Yeah. In a part of the river called the Pony Pasture, we have large boulders, and the topography of the river, it's very calm upstream, and then as it approaches the city, because the elevation drops and all those rocks are in the water, it's kind of a roiling river. And the ambassador's house can be seen on the cover up on top of the hill, and one of the boys is standing in the water. I spent a lot of time in that river at that spot as a young man.
See, no, I love that story. Who helped you with the artwork for the cover? I love it. It's beautiful.
So Emily Hurst Pritchett is the illustrator. And that was one of the cool things about the project. So when I was working with my publisher and we got to the point where we needed cover art, they had many contacts, artists all over the world, and I went through catalogs and looked at samples. I had a good idea of what I wanted, and I liked her work, and kind of gave her some ideas about how I wanted it depicted, and she nailed it really right off the bat. I mean, I had very little feedback. I think I wanted to change the color of the boy's shorts, but that's about it. I mean, she's an incredibly talented artist, and I'm really pleased with the way the cover turned out. Well,
does writing this book open the door for you to remain creative and keep writing in the future?
I hope so. I thoroughly enjoyed doing this. And when I was finished, and I'm sure a lot of authors experience this, I mean, there was a sense of sadness, like I was leaving these characters behind. I enjoyed it far more than I thought I would. I would hope that I would continue in some form or fashion, whether there's a sequel to Charlie Man or, a totally different type of novel. I would expect that at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll take another stab at this.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because I think as listeners and their readers, they're like, oh, Dave, please ask Thomas if he's going to keep writing. Because when they find an author they love, they're like, oh, I hope there's more coming down the road. Right.
Sure.
That's kind of why I went with the name Living the Next Chapter for my podcast, because I'm always kind of prompting my guests, hey, I would love to see more from you. What is your love letter to the readers? If you could have your readers gather around you, maybe a local coffee shop there in Virginia, grab coffee, rivers right there in the background, just talk about the book. What would you like to say to them about this book as you present them to them?
So I hope the book is it's entertaining, but it's heartwarming, right? That they can identify and empathize with these characters as they go through a tough time in their lives, but also a really fun time, right? I hope that it's familiar in terms of struggles and things that we all experience and go through. And at the end of the day, I hope it's inspiring, right? And that they're optimistic about how Charlie turns out, and in turn it makes them reflect in a positive way on their own experiences at that time in their lives.
So the intentionality of writing, being in that creative space, thinking about August 1994, putting yourself there, does it stir up for you memories that you hadn't really thought about in a long time as you're writing, and you're like, whether or not it ended up in the book, it just for you, it was like a real refresher?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kind of living and reflecting on those years, right? You take it for granted at the time, certainly, and this really forced me to go back and search through the kind of the recesses of my mind to recall some of these episodes that inspired certain scenes in the book. The characters themselves, right? Insofar as they're loosely based on folks that I encountered and knew well, trying to remember how this person would have said something. What was the quip or the aside, right? That we would have used. Thinking about some of the important characters in the book for Charlie, his coach, Toby Reeves, who's also his guidance counselor, his English teacher, Mr. Preston. Certainly those characters are inspired in part by great teachers and coaches that I had, and to go back and reflect on that and realize and appreciate just how important these folks are in your life, right? Good teachers who instill fundamentals and values and a sense of right and wrong and perspective. So that was fun to do, and it gave me a kind of a newfound appreciation about how important these folks are in our young folks' lives.
Did you have an opportunity during the writing of the book to go back to some of these places again and stand on the river side and put yourself back into the story yourself?
So Richmond is a few hours away from where I live, but my family still lives there. So my parents, my siblings, nieces and nephews, and I get back as often as I can. And as I was writing the book and I was revising the book, I would make trips to Richmond and drive through some of the neighborhoods that inspired some of the neighborhoods in the book. I tried to get back to Ambassador Wright's estate, but because of some development and subdivisions, it's more difficult. So I have to do it under cover of darkness, but I intend to do it at some point.
Okay, you can pass on this next question if you wish, knowing what you do for a day job. Was there any trespassing at all when you personally went there in the area researching your book? You can pass if you want. You can pass.
Yeah, so I didn't trespass.
Okay, good answer.
But I idled out front.
Okay, all right. A little stalking? That's okay.
Yeah, a little stalking, yeah.
That's fine. This is not being recorded, this part, just so you know. We're good. We're free to talk. Okay, yeah. Whew. Let's get past that. I'm excited. This is fun. Okay, so the whole idea of writing a book, again, it's pretty daunting for a lot of authors to sit down and share a story for the first time. Before I let you run off to your day and all the things you got planned, let's encourage an author today who's really thinking about getting their story out there. Maybe they're stuck at the beginning stages. They have a great idea. They're not really sure where this is going to lead, but they just need some inspiration from another author who's done it. You've done it. So there's something that that could really help somebody. What would you say to a group of authors then to encourage them?
Sure. So I think the most important step is to start. Right, is to try to get a chapter or two under your belt, just something on paper, and then from there, you just have to commit, whether you feel like you're putting out good product or not, to move the story along, every day, to be disciplined about it. Right, just set a goal, whether it's 250 words, 500 words, or 1,000 words. I want the story to progress in some form or fashion every day until I have close to a finished product. I think you will find, if you're invested in the project, that the story and the characters, notwithstanding your how you think the story is going to go, will kind of take over and to a certain extent help you write the book. So if you are able to develop strong characters, have a clear sense of setting, time and place, and a plot and a narrative that that you planned out, but are willing to deviate from and to follow kind of where the story takes you, it becomes a little less daunting. But I think the biggest advice, the most important advice I have is just to keep at it. Make yourself do it. Go through the process, whether it's just a couple of hundred words, stick to that, and you will find that you're able to kind of get through the tougher times and get to the finish line.
Thomas, where do you want to send people to connect with you about maybe future projects around the book? Maybe there's somebody that would love to have some time with you, or another podcaster they'd love to have you on their show. Where do you want to send people to connect with you?
Sure. So one of the downsides or upsides of being a judge is we don't do a lot of social media, and I don't. I can't. So there's a lot about me, some other things that I've written, some of the op-eds and essays and profiles and whatnot, more Thomas Cullen, the judge and former prosecutor, and those sorts of things. If you just Google me, you'll find those. My publicist has a site with some links where you can get the book. And if you're really, really interested in knowing more, certainly my email address is probably not too hard to find, and you can write me a letter at the federal court in Virginia, and
there you go.
I'll be happy to respond.
Excellent. I think it's PR by the Book has a site for you. We'll link to that.
It does.
Right.
And so does Brandy Lane and my publisher. Yeah.
Okay, great. Actually, we'll put those links in the notes as well. If somebody walked into your courtroom with a copy of your book under their arm, any preferential treatment at all? Is that
Gosh, I might have to recuse myself.
You might have to think, wait a minute. I'm not saying anyone to do that, but here you go. I like that. Thomas, I'm really excited to have you here. I've been thinking about this chat for a while, and glad to have time with you. Very generous of your time. And I would really encourage everyone listening to, when you buy Charlie Man, to please leave a great review. Let other people know why you love this book so much. Bring out some key points from the book that really stuck with you as a reader, so that other people will also fall in love with the book. And as you're listening to this, you're thinking, I know somebody who grew up in this community, and I think they're going to love a copy of the book. Buy an extra copy. Send it to them as well. Thomas, again, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Dave. It's great getting to know you, and I look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Excellent. If I get down to Roanoke, I'm going to take you out for coffee or something.
That sounds great.
Hey, thank you so much again for pressing play. As you've heard, great guests on the show. And one thing you didn't hear in this conversation is what? What did you not hear? Think about it for a second. That's right. Not a single solitary commercial for a mattress or a supplement or a whatever you call it. No. Why? Because we don't want to break up the conversation with commercials. So the fact that you're still here means that you are a fan of the show, I'm assuming. So if you want to help to keep the podcast going and to make me feel really happy, all I really care about is coffee, okay? I just got to be honest. I love coffee. I'm drinking one right now. It's starting to get cold. I need to warm it up. Helping us with our Buy Me a Coffee link over at livingthenextchapter.com and also in the show notes helps kind of keep the lights on around here. Remember, I'm doing this for free. I'm paying for everything. So I would love to have a little coffee donation, even $5 kind of fills up my cup. And I would love to enjoy a coffee from you. So if you're interested, again, thank you for listening. But you can use our Buy Me a Coffee link and fill up the cup. Thanks for being here.